Welcome to short highlights of the 43rd edition of the San Sebastian Classic with me, Jez Cox. Less than a week after the finish of the Tour de France, as always, it was an opportunity for those with excellent Tour form to test themselves against those who are building up to the World Championships, which are just a week away, of course, in Glasgow in Scotland. Familiar 230-kilometre course served up a breakaway initially of 6 riders, it then became 5, and a really strong group kicked off by Romain Bardet of DSM, Firmenich of course, and riders already desperately trying to get across that gap using the ascents in the middle of the course in the build-up to the Jaizkibel, and then the Erlaitz, where Remco Evenepoel decided it was his opportunity to try and rip across the gap, catching Julien Bernard and forming a group of his own at the front of the race, which included Nathan van Hooijdonk and the aforementioned Bardet as well, sitting at the back there. Riders individually tried to get across the gap, but as they were doing so, the gap just continued to go out, and most of the time that was because the two-time victor of this race and last year's champion, the world champion, Remco Evenepoel, was doing some really long turns on the front of this group in order to keep it clear. And as you can see from the time gap, it just kept going up. First it was 45 seconds, then a minute, then 2 minutes, and it kept growing. A handy chasing group, though, was forming. There was plenty of work being done by Nielsen Paulus to try and snuffle out attacks in amongst it. They went across the line in the wrong direction for the first time before heading to the final climb, the Mendizorrotz, with a handy lead. Over the top of that climb, 3 riders got clear alongside Remco Evenepoel, and they were Pello Bilbao and Alexander Vlasov, making his return since pulling out of the Giro d'Italia with COVID-19 way back in May, and this was his return to racing. Vlasov, the Russian rider, in really good form. The final climb of the Murgil was really tough as always, and the descents off the back of these climbs crucial too. However, this year it wasn't to be Remco Evenepoel having everything his own way. Last year he took off with 44k to go. Pello Bilbao in particular put up a great battle with the world champion, laying the pressure on himself, and in the end though, just hanging on to Evenepoel over the top. Remco Evenepoel ramped it again, desperately trying to see if he could drop Pello Bilbao, but the man with the Tour de France stage win in his legs wasn't to be dropped and hung on the descent. It was to come down to a sprint à deux between these two. Lots of people thinking it might be Bilbao's chance to end Remco's running streak in this race, and so a cagey affair was in for the last kilometre. Pello Bilbao moved into first place, but then Remco Evenepoel started his sprint. It was close for a while between the two of them, and then Remco started to click up through his own gears and just get about a bike length on Pello Bilbao, at which point we knew he'd gone into the lead as being one of only 2 riders ever to have won 3 editions of the San Sebastian Classic. A great ride by Alexander Vlasov, signalling his return to the top of the sport in 3rd place for Bora Hansgrohe. And a smiling Remco Evenepoel, who's at the start of a 3-goal end-of-season peak for him, which is San Sebastian, tick, with the win, the World Championship road race title defence next weekend, yet to be seen, then of course the Vuelta, which he won last year. He started very well, finishing ahead of Pello Bilbao and Alexander Vlasov. Nielsen Paulus, a former winner of this race, in 4th, leading in a really strong group that was topped out by Tej Benoot in 10th. Remco Evenepoel swapped his world champion's cap for the Sapala, the Basque beret, to be on the podium with Alexander Vlasov, and a really strong ride by Pello Bilbao, giving him a right run for his money come the finish. How will things unfold in the coming weeks with the World Championships yet to come, and then of course the Vuelta too? Don't forget you can catch back all of our coverage of today's San Sebastian Classic in full on GCN Plus and Discovery Plus.